and we'll be announcing winners throughout the day. Or we'll email you if your name is picked and you're no longer at the festival. As always, this entire all-day literary celebration is free to you, but it's extremely costly to put on, and as a nonprofit, we depend on donations to keep going. So please consider placing $1 or $2 in our donation box today. And now it's my great pleasure to have actor, producer, director, philanthropist, golfer, active Twitterer, and now author Kevin Sorbo here at the Twin Cities Book Festival. Mr. Sorbo's newly released memoir, True Strength, My Journey from Hercules to Mere Mortal, and How Nearly Dying Saved My Life, tells a gripping tale of surviving 3 strokes during the heyday of his hit TV series Hercules, The Legendary Journeys. This candid memoir gives an intimate look into his life before achieving fame. As you may know, Mr. Sorbo is a born and bred Minnesotan from Mound, and I understand there's some relatives in the crowd. And also the book is about the ups and downs of trying to make it in Hollywood. While he gave 110% to every endeavor he took on, especially when he landed the role of a lifetime, Hercules, where he put in grueling 14-hour days and did all of his own stunts.
Nothing to it.
A sudden medical crisis brought everything to a screeching halt temporarily. What makes his story so profound and moving to me is the author's frank description of his physical debilitations and the denial he felt as he tried to reconcile the public image of himself as a demigod with this new mere mortal stature. We are indeed pleased to have Mr. Sorbo present his book to us today. And in addition to his role as Hercules, Kevin Sorbo had a leading role in Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda and performed in many TV shows and movies, including recent films What If and Soul Surfer. He is a spokesman for A World Fit for Kids, a nonprofit mentoring organization in Los Angeles. So please, everyone, join me in welcoming Kevin Sorbo.
How are you? This is new to me, guys. I'm a rookie at this. This is my virgin book, so it was a long time in the making. So I really don't even know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm here, and it's good to be here. It's good to be back home. I usually make it back every summer. I'm an active participant with the Sports Hearing Foundation, the wonderful things they do, and I try to get back to the 3M Championship every year because I'm crazy about golf, and I avoid the winters. I did my 22 years here, so I figured when I left college, I knew my friends. I live in LA, I've been here for a while now, and every year around January, February, when I see you guys have a cold streak and it's 20, 30 below every day for like a week, I know my buddies from high school here and my college days up Morehead State University, Minnesota, they call. And I had the connections to Palm Springs, so they wanted me to take them golfing and stuff like that. So anyway, this book was a long time coming, and I'm sure a lot of people were surprised about hearing about the strokes I had suffered that didn't know about that. The studio kept it actually very, very quiet. I just finished season 5 on Hercules, and I had a 3.5-month window to do my second feature film I did 1 year before, called Cull the Conqueror. For those who saw that, that's thank you. Cull was the prequel to actually Conan the Barbarian in the books. Cull is Conan's father, so in fact he's older than I am, but I'm Arnold's dad. And I'm taller than him, and he doesn't like that. I was about to do this movie, and that's when I got sick, and they kept it like ET, CNN, Fox, all those people put it on air about my aneurysm, which I did have in my left subclavicle, but they didn't talk about the strokes because the studio did want to keep it quiet, didn't want to keep the show going. We just passed Baywatch as the most watched TV show in the world, so a little boy from Mound, that's kind of cool to be part of something like that. And they had 2 years left in my contract, and we're talking about a 3-year extension. So, they could have feigned that they were interested in my health, but Hollywood is about business, and I understand that. And actually, I was grateful for them that they kept it out of the press because I was hoping to make a full recovery as well, and I wanted my career to keep going. If the strokes had come out right away, it may have hurt me in a way that I wouldn't have the career to continue the way I did. So What would you like me to do? Do you want me to read a chapter? Do you want to talk a Q&A right now? I mean, you guys have to work with me here. This is kind of all new, and it's fun for me, like I said, to be back home as well. Yes? Well, you know, the first 2 years were brutal. I literally went from 14 hours a day on the set. My days were 18 hours door to door. Usually the location was an hour from where I lived. I lived in New Zealand for 7 years on tough duty. I highly recommend it. It's one of the most beautiful countries in the world. Great people. And I kept notes during those first 2 years because what I was feeling, what I was going through. And it was more therapy than anything else. A book wasn't really in mind for me at that moment. And then my wife started bugging me about it. Probably about 3 or 4 years afterwards, I should write it. And she bugged me a lot about doing it. And like I would do in school, if I get a paper and I get 3 months to do it, I usually wait the last 3 days to do it. So that's kind of the way the book came about. It just reached a point 2 years ago. I said I want to do this. So my wife's a New Yorker. We traveled New York a lot. We went there and we met with about 6 or 7 different publishing companies there. They were all very interested in it, and we had a nice little bidding war in the book, which was nice. And we settled basically like most people do, I think, on a personality test more than anything. We really like the people. We want big capital books versus books. And they were great little small family type of boutique to me, and I really liked the way they did their stuff. And I was a Beatles fan, and they just done Paul McCartney's book Fab, which I read. And I said, okay, this is So I started going after it, and I just, and I learned, I got a couple good friends and people here. I'm sure there's some Bruce Campbell fans in here. Bruce has written a couple books, and Bruce just sort of guided me through it in a way that, just to tell me not to get crazy, not to go nuts when you're doing it. Just take it one word at a time, let things happen. I mean, there'd be days I could write 10 pages, and there'd be 2 weeks I couldn't write anything, and I started getting frustrated. But when I relaxed about it more, I was able to make it happen. And we mixed it up in the chapters anywhere from 2 pages to 20 pages. There's a lot of different chapters, a lot of different stories, with a lot of anecdotes in there. There's humor in there. I mean, you have to find humor and tragedy in your life, I think, otherwise you're going to go crazy. And I had to find humor in this, but at the time it wasn't that much fun. It wasn't that funny. But like I said earlier, I went from 14-hour days on the set to 2 hours of lifting heavy on the set. I'm a good 25 pounds lighter than I was on my hurt days. Still work out every day, still do stuff. It's still part of my drug. But I went back on set about 3.5 months afterwards because they wanted to try to keep the show going, and I literally just worked 1 hour a day. And they did a lot of stunt casting for a lot of the other actors around me to keep the show going. And if you look at season 6, you can see how much muscle mass I lost, and slowly it built up. And it wasn't until the end of season 7, the last season, I was up to about 9 hours a day on the set. But it took a long time. And even my first season on Andromeda, which followed right away, I was working 12 hours door to door. This is welcome to television. And but it seemed better, and it was into season 2, so 4 years after the stroke, so I felt like I was normal again. I still have some residual stuff. I lost 10% of vision in both eyes. That's still permanent today. I had to learn to re-walk and balance myself. I lost all that. I had a 4th stroke that only lasted for about an hour, which sent us to the hospital. So I lived in total denial of this happening to me. I was 38 years old. I was probably as fit as any 21-year-old college athlete. And to go from that to a 9-year-old overnight, literally just in seconds, was mind-boggling to me. It hit my ego. I mean, I was living that life, and I was into it. I didn't think I was half gone. But I felt indestructible. I really did. I felt always in good shape, and it was a hard thing for me to deal with my ego and psychologically and physiology and everything. That it just turned my world upside down and changed me. It changed me as a person, changed me as a man as well. So it was a long road. It wasn't fun. I used to tell joke with my wife and say I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I would. There are people like that. Yes.
How do you hide 3 strokes and keep working?
Well, it's interesting because I think I was a very finely tuned athlete. I really was. And I worked out every day on the set. Every day I worked with the stunt guys on all forms of martial arts and rehearsing fights, and we did 3 fights in every episode. And my ego was, yeah, I want to do my own fight scenes, and I did them all the time. And then, you know, there was some bad, I mean, I got nailed over, like concussions, you know, ripped up hands from swords and stuff like that. I mean, we had all kinds of stuff that happened, but I was in New Zealand, so I wasn't making public appearances. I would just go from the home to the set. The people on the set knew that I was very, very sick. I don't know if the entire crew at the time knew that I had strokes. They knew I had aneurysm. They knew that when I came back on the set after 3.5, 4 months not seeing me, they saw how frail I was. In the very first scene, on the very first day, I just sat down on the rock. I told the director, I mean, it was quiet. It was church-like quiet when I walked down to the set. And I sat down, I remember I told the director, I said, I'm going to sit in the rock for this. And so I really just did 2 scenes. I did the beginning. It was basically like, oh, I remember when I fought the Hydra. And they would do a whole episode filling with other people and come back and meet the end and go, well, how about that? You know, it was just ways to cover. It was ways to cover what was going on with me. So it was, they had therapy sessions set up for me. I literally had to stand there and try to stand up and throw a ball up in the air and catch in his hand. Well, I had no problem doing that. It took me a week to even catch it for the first time. But I'm the type of person, I'm an incredibly strong-willed person. And if the doctors say do 10 minutes, I'll do it for 3 hours. And that's just the way I am. I push myself and push myself and push myself. And I would get totally wiped out. And I would just, you know, really what it came down to for those first 3.5 months is I would walk a block. That would wipe me out. And I had to lay on the couch all day long. I became a total couch potato and just watch TV all day, just to take my mind off what was going on in my mind. I had a generator sound in the back of my head that lasted almost 2 years. Talk about people, what was it, tinnitus, whatever it was called. I had a low buzzing 24 hours a day for 2 years. It stopped a couple times during that second year, which gave me hope. I said, you know, it's getting better. But it went all the time. And I could feel it. I would grab my wife's hand and said, do you feel the heat? Did you feel it back then? She goes, no, I can't feel it. But I knew what was going on. It was driving me crazy. It drove me crazy. And when I tried to sleep at night, there were lightning strikes in my eyes. Every time I closed my eyes. And I knew it was my brain was trying to find a way, because the 3 strokes that I had, you can see them on the MRIs. I mean, they look like acorns with little spikes coming out of them, you know. And I also, actually the fourth, I knew something. I knew I had strokes. I didn't want to admit it. I knew I had strokes. And we waited until actually the next morning when I woke up, and I didn't pop anymore. I was like this. And I looked at my fiancée at the time, and she just froze. And I froze, and I said, oh my God. And I knew. And she just silently grabbed me, boom, straight to the hospital. And it was weird, because it's in the book. I remember, I was living in LA. I remember I was in LA, and it was my hiatus. I was living in New Zealand, but I was, she lived like 2 miles from Cedars-Sinai, for those, it's a very famous hospital in LA. And I was hanging on her because I couldn't walk, and I just could barely balance. And I remember looking, crystal, it was the same weekend Princess Di died, actually, so it's just, I will obviously never forget that time. And I remember looking at the blue sky, and I seen the hospital in the foreground, looking at the blue sky, and I didn't say to Sam, I said to myself, I said, I'm going to die today. And it was weird how calm I was, because I was mad about it, because I always thought I was going to have kids, and I lived to be 9 years old. I did. It was in my plans. And I just said, and I just to myself, I honestly thought, this is it, I'm going to die today. This sucks. I mean, I was not happy about it at all. And so it was 8 days in ICU, whatever it was. I mean, I had, you know, tubes coming everywhere out of me. It was really, obviously, a life-changing thing. I mean, that's why I think the reason I wrote the book was just to show people that you can triumph over tragedy with not only strong will. I mean, the doctors gave me 3 to 8 months in terms of my recovery, saying whatever you had at the end of 8 months, that's what pretty much you can expect the rest of your life. And at the end of 8 months, I was still feeling like crap, and I said, this can't be right, they can't be right. And I just told myself, you know, that's why they call, you know, it's a practice, you know, the doctors. So they still don't know. I mean, as good as they are at saying, because certainly they went out and do an angio, went through my groin, through my heart, and they sealed it off with a platinum coil, so they didn't actually physically open me up. That was a new practice they were doing for brain aneurysms, and the doctor, luckily, they were ready to cut me open. The doctor came in and said, no, let's just do it this way. So I thought, I'm worth more money. So that's good. Yes.
Not.
How many great presents is Zambia putting up with you?
Oh, man. You know, she was certainly, you know, I was the one. I'm the fourth of 5 kids. We all went to the same schools in Mountain, Minnesota. All my brothers, and I got 3 brothers and a sister. They all got married in their 20s. I waited till I was 39. I had a different girlfriend every Christmas. So I mean, my wife and I actually talked about it, and sincerely, she says we probably wouldn't have gotten married had I not gotten sick, and there's a lot of truth in that, because I probably been the one who walked away first before the marriage. I would have got cold feet. When I got sick, you know what? You find out you need people in your life. Because I was kind of a loner. I didn't mind my own company. I got great friends, but I'm not afraid to be alone. I'm comfortable in my own space and my own skin. So I thought at that time I wasn't going to blame her if she walked away. I thought she would walk away because I didn't know what my improvement was going to be. And seriously, I mean, yeah, I could get up, I could crawl my way to the bathroom, I could do stuff, but it was overall, I said, I'll never, she walked away, I wouldn't blame her. I didn't want her to. I mean, I remember there's a chapter called Ice Cream, where she booked a commercial for New York City, and it was for, ice cream, her favorite thing. And I'm laying there and I see you, and she says, should I take it, should I not take it? And of course in my head I'm going, F you, you're not taking this thing, you got to take care of me, But I finally looked and I said, no, I don't want you to go. And for her, that was sort of like the decision point that, okay, he's going to be my priority now. And see, she certainly put her career on the back burner. She just finished a year on Chicago Hope, that came out at the same time ER did, and she basically just said, I'm going to make sure that you get through this. And she was, the reason this book's even written is because of her. Yes, sir.
Genetically predisposed to this?
No, I'm not predisposed to this. They took, right away they want to check for steroids. I never take steroids in my life. My body frame on steroids, I'd be like 275. I would. I could get huge in that stuff. They did every test in the world. I take a baby aspirin every day and I'll send somebody, even my GP back in LA does that, just take it. You don't need it. They did every blood test in the world and say, I'm not set up for that. They don't know why this happened here. They don't know why I'm the aneurysm. They don't know why they informed. It could have been something. I started lifting heavy weights in high school. So I've been up to that point. I've been lifting for 20, 21 years. Just lifting every day. So they said maybe something wore down in there with muscle and bone going together. It could have been something since birth. They don't have the answers. They have no clue as to why this happened to them. Is there someone else? Yes.
Experience changing and talk about your own beliefs on how it changes?
I became a lot more patient. I became a lot more compassionate. I became, I think I epitomized Minnesota nice. I think I grew up in a pretty good family. I've never been like really a jerk and everything like that, And in high school I was friends with, from the jocks of the burnouts, So I was cliquish, I guess, But it was, I learned also that everybody has a story. And that's why I want to write this. Everybody goes through pain and suffering in lives. And we're all going to go through it individually, but if we haven't, then we've counted blessings, but we've also had people in our lives that have had to go through it. And I think that's the biggest reason why I also wanted to write the book, is therapeutic, as was for me to get my story out, and I wanted to get the story out, was to let people know that no matter what doctors tell you, no matter what these experts tell you, positive frame of mind, never giving up, pushing yourself to the limit. I knew, I didn't drive for almost 2 years. I couldn't handle it. My brain couldn't handle it. It couldn't handle the passing cars, the cars coming at me and the lights. I couldn't sit in a restaurant and the people talking. My brain could not handle it. But I would throw myself in those situations, knowing full well it would wipe me out. It would just physically just wipe me out. But it's like that, being a jock is that no pain, no gain mentality. I said, I'm not going to get better unless I put myself in situations. We had a lot of strobe lights on the first season of Andromeda, and that knocked me out. That it was just this whole thing. There were certain smells that got to me. I developed migraines, which I never had before. Luckily, those are gone now. I never took drugs in my life. They wanted to give me all these drugs and stuff. I had panic anxiety attacks that came into my life, and that to me was sort of understandable, because I thought everybody knew that I was a phony now. Everybody knew that I wasn't this big, strong, tough guy, and I wouldn't have been able to stand up here for those first 2-3 years. This is no way. And I never had that problem before. Thank God I'm back to doing it now. I love being in front of people. It was fun for me. But it was tough. It was. They wanted to give me all these, Xanax, everything. I tried stuff like that for like a week or a month. Well, I had every side effect in the world that went along with them. And I happened to say lower sexual drive. I said, screw that. That ain't gonna work for me, you know. But it was tough. It was. Here's the thing. The build up to it was this. During the last like 4 or 5 episodes leading up to the end of season 5, and I was about to do this movie in Atlanta, come back to the States, I started getting tingling sensations in these fingers. These 3 fingers right here, they were cold and it was bugging me. I didn't know what was going on with it. And it was just, and then sometimes I felt really weak and I couldn't get a good grip when I was working out and doing stuff on the show. And I saw a couple doctors and they're like, oh, a lot of them did the same thing. Did you hit your ulnar nerve? That's like nailing your funny bone. And a lot of athletes do it, a lot of hockey guys do it. And that happens, it can last up to 6 months and it produces those sensations. Well, I bought that. I didn't, you know. I came back and I started doing a press for call. So I was all over the place. I was up in Boston and it got to the point my whole left arm was just killing me, just aching. So the studio, Universal Studios, who did the movie as well, they call up a doctor for me and he comes to the hotel room. His name was Dr. Dye. I said, change your name. I know it's BYE, but seriously, for a doctor. I mean, then something in med school was mentioned, maybe. And just a rye, anything. But he's the first one that got it. He said he felt around, he thought he felt a little lump, and he said, you know what, I think we got to go on this cardiovascular. And I think we need to get a checkup and back that way. So I went to see my doctor, and Dr. Rob Heisinger. He was been my doctor since I moved there. He was the team doctor for the Oakland Raiders. And he initially was one of these guys that was just like, I'll just get out there and play. But then he's now written a lot of books about the dangers of football. Basically running into a wall for 20 years of your life and getting hit all the time. So he really wanted to check me out and see what was going on. And he found a lump there. He wanted a biopsy this. At the time, he thought it was cancer. He didn't tell me that, but he thought it was cancer. And I also told him. Then I went to see my chiropractor, which was close to where I used to live in Santa Monica. I've been seeing this guy for 8 years. I laid on the table and he's working on it. I told him about this, told him about what the doctor said, and told him about my left arm, and he's working on it. I'm laying on this table and I hear a voice say, "Don't let him crack your neck." I opened my eyes and said, "Well, did you say something?" And he said, "No." Now, I've been going to him 8 years, and I told him I don't like my neck cracked. So I don't know why I heard that voice say that. And I closed my eyes again, he's working on my shoulder. Again, he says, "Do not let him crack your neck." And I kept my eyes closed, and all of a sudden, boom, he cracks my neck very hard, this like big loud crack. I sat up and I said, "Why did you do that?" He said, "I felt like you needed it." I said, "I don't like that time, I don't like that." And I paid my bill, I went to my car, I started driving. Within 2 minutes of driving, I got the sensation that you get when you stand up too quickly, you like that dizzy, multiply that by 10. And I felt like my head was inside an aquarium, and I was looking through the water and looking through the glass. I pulled over the side of the road, and I called up Sam. I said, "I don't know what's going on, this is weird, it's not going away." She said, "Let me come and get you." I said, "No, I'll drive home," which was just stupid. Because at that point, I'd suffered the first 2 strokes. I drove home. I got to a place, and I'm sitting there, and the vision was bugging me, and the balance was really bugging me, and I said, I don't know what's going on. This is just so strange. And then she says, "Well, they canceled the show. It's going to be a talk show that afternoon to promote the movie." And I called my publicist. She said, "It's 2 hours away. You can't cancel, Kevin." And I said, "You don't understand how it feels. Something's not right." I went to the stupid talk show. So I'm sitting in this talk show, and I'm just fighting myself through it, just fighting through the balance. I walked out with Sam again, and then the other one hit, the third one hit, which really bugged my balance. She had to help me upstairs. I lay down in bed, and honestly, I slept on this for the night, which was just stupid, because I could have died myself that night. I woke up that morning, and that's when the speech was coming. And that's when the whole thing was accelerated, big all over there. By that point, as we walked in, this entire arm was blue, turning on purple. There were hundreds and hundreds of clots at an arm. They got actually there by the second day of everything, but they may have to amputate it. Because they just jammed it full of heparin to come in blood thinners, so they just tried to break up every clot they could possibly get. They had no pulse down here whatsoever. And I know it's interesting. I got on the plane this morning. I've been in New York. I got another week's worth of publicity there. And across the aisle from me is this guy that looks at me and goes, "You're Kevin Sorbo." And I said, "All my life." He says, "Well, I'm a chiropractor. I'm the head of the Chiropractic of America," or something like this. And he was just reading somebody had just sent him an article about me. And so he starts asking me about this whole chiropractic. You believe that's what caused it? And I said, I don't think it helped it. You know, I mean, there's arguments for and against. I've talked to about 4 different neurologists that have said to believe, yeah, it actually, when that movement sent the clots up like salmon upstream, because everything should have kept going down this way. And it does happen, and he knows it happens. I think they've got, for every 100,000 patients, it can happen to 10 of them. But they call them like mini strokes, where they dissolve very quickly. Mine did not dissolve; mine was still there. So, but he wanted me to maybe do some articles so I don't bash the chiropractic world all in hell. But I still go see a chiropractor. So I mean, I'm not bashing it, but I certainly think that my doctor at the time, given what I told him, what my doctor said, what this could be or whatever, and cardiovascular, maybe he shouldn't have done the manipulation, because in my heart, in my gut, certainly it had something to do with sending blood clots up to my brain. There's no question. You have someone who
Something I'm supposed to do is about the series of the show.
Mhm.
And I was wondering, I know I'm going to be secret, but do you have any recommendations about things I should or shouldn't do or say for that?
What do you mean?
I mean, was there anything anybody did that was particularly helpful or that particularly pissed you off and that you didn't want to
Well, there's a lot of things that piss me off about it. I mean, seriously, I think I go through every stage that anybody goes through. They say you have cancer, you have this, you have anything that's life-changing and altering in you. I think you go through the steps of blaming other people, blaming God, because I did all that stuff. And the reality is, I believe that voice was God. God was telling me, don't let them crack your neck. Why else would I hear that? Call it the gut feeling, call it what you want. I mean, how many times you walk down the street at night and you want to take a shortcut and you go, nah, I'd rather not go that way. There's a reason why you don't do that. There's something telling you not to do that. You can call it what you want. I'm a Christian, so I believe God was trying to give me a warning. And he had to seriously tap me on my shoulder in a pretty rough way to wake me up. And I had one guy down in New Zealand that I worked with, one physiotherapist down there that he does stuff cranial. I don't even know I can't remember exactly what it is called, but it barely touches your head. But I could feel things moving around. It's kind of voodoo stuff.
Cranial.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird stuff, but it helped. But he told me, he said, you have to accept this. You have so much anger in you. You have to let that go, and you have to look at this as a gift. That pissed me off. I said, how is this a gift? Honestly, how is this a gift? But as time went on, I thought about what he said. It made sense to me, because it was a gift, because it did change me. I was leading a life that was ridiculous. I was sleeping, for those first 5 years, I was sleeping 4 hours a night. That's all I did. I would get home after my 18 hours door to door. I would study, eat dinner late at night, and then I would study my lines the next day, go to bed at midnight, boom, get up at 4 o'clock. Literally, I stopped dreaming. My head would hit the pillow at midnight, 4 o'clock came in seconds. I mean, seriously, I don't remember any dreams for those 5 years on the series. But that was mine. I was willing to give that. But your body has to find a way sometime to tell you, this is ridiculous. You have to slow down. You're killing yourself. And I was killing myself. I just didn't know it at the time. I was quicker to anger initially. And they said that's a symptom of also people that suffer strokes. Because your brain, your physiology, everything changes in you. And it was tough for me, because I'm really hard to anger. It takes a lot to get me going. I have opinions and everything. I love debate. I love seeing both sides of every issue. Republican, Democrat, Independent. I love debates all the way around, because there's the issues I agree on both sides and the issues I don't agree on both sides. So I'm a hard one to pin down politically, because I voted on both sides of the aisle. I vote for who's best, or I think is best. I could be wrong, but you never win in politics anyway. But we want that job. I had to find my own place to keep myself going, and I took acupuncture was another thing I did. Things I never did: yoga, meditation, Pilates. I mean, stuff I would have thought, who wants to do that? I did everything to find little bits and pieces and little bits of bricks that really all helped me to get better. But I think more than anything, I'm incredibly stubborn, and I would not give up the ship. There's no way that I was going. I had 1 week in the second year. I had 1 week where I went up. I got invited to play in the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, the AT&T. It was on TV with the pros. It used to be called the Bing Crosby and stuff. And, I was just getting my golf game back. because I was a good golfer. I was a single-digit handicap. The first time I tried golfing with my balance, about 9 months later, I shot like a 98 for 9 holes. And I was like a 75 guy for 18, so this was not easy for me to even accept that. But I had that 1 week at Pebble Beach where the humming, the vibrating stopped. And I don't know if it's the focus on the golf, with the playing with the pros and being in the air of the Monterey Peninsula, I don't know. But it gave me, and it came back. It came back the following week, but it gave me such hope. It gave me, I said, you know what, this is getting better. And it was centimeters at a time. There was no big leaps with this thing. But by the end of the second year, this thing started progressing even more and more. And I think I built up the muscle in my brain to finally say, okay, this is what you got to live with now. Like I said, I still had 10% loss of vision in both eyes. The balance, I had to learn to rewalk and learn to run again. That first season back on Hercules in season 6, they literally just do it close to my face and me just trying to do a head turn during the fight scene and put the body double in there. I mean, even just doing that would be enough to send me falling down. Couldn't even do that. It was crazy. Yeah.
What's next step?
In what way? I'm busy. It's been good. It's been good. I've got six movies in the can that are done. I just finished a movie called Abel's Field. For those who like good family faith-based movies, modern day Cain and Abel meets Friday Night Lights. Just shot that in Austin, Texas. We just wrapped up about 6-7 weeks of shooting down there. And I've got a couple comedies coming up on KevinSorbo.net. Go check it out. I got just did a guest spot in a half-hour comedy that opens next January, February. Got a very long title, something about don't talk to the bitch in apartment 23. They go beat and they got different, letters and numbers. Very funny sitcom, very funny. And then I started a movie in Vegas next month, and another one in Oklahoma City after that. And sold a series to Sony and NBC, so hopefully we'll shoot it next spring and back on TV on a regular basis. But I've been very lucky. I mean, work to me was also something that helped me recover. I loved being on the set of Hercules. We laughed every single day. That was my second family. That became my home. And Minnesota will always be my home. I still have all the Vikings. What's wrong with them? I was looking at the paper. They're the only losing team that has more points they've scored than the points been scored against them. Well, they've led every half by 20 points and lost every one of them or something. But yes, I still live and die with the sports team and stuff. But New Zealand is certainly my adopted second home. And I love going to the set every day, and that was motivation for me to be on the set, to get there and working. Because I have a passion for acting, which was born here at the Guthrie Theater when I was 11 years old. And that's where it all started from. This is where the seed was for me to be an actor. And I remember my parents took me to a play there when I was 11. It was The Merchant of Venice. I probably didn't understand 90% of Shakespeare's words, but I was mesmerized by the actors on stage and looking around at people and watching their reactions. And on the way home, I said, "Mom," because I was really quiet. She goes, "What do you think about it?" I said, "You know what? I'm going to be an actor." My mom was, "That's nice, dear." My mom answered. Yes, sir.
Did because you mentioned it earlier, did this experience make you more spiritual? Did you find yourself praying more?
Yeah, in a way, I've always been spiritual. I mean, I grew up, Minnesota Lutheran, Norwegian stock, and my pastor, though, around the same age, of 11 or 12 years old, I remember our pastor Sandus, was really fire and brimstone. You couldn't even breathe. You're going to hell because you're breathing. I just remember going, really? And I asked my mom and dad one day when I went home, I said, is God that mad at us, really? Is he really that upset with us? Because, the Old Testament, you kind of see him mad, but then he had a kid in the New Testament. You kind of mellowed out a little bit, So I don't know, the Bible's written by man. I think God sort of celebrates our lives, and yes, he gives us free will and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think he's that angry. So, but I always, it wasn't until a new pastor came in that sort of lightened the tone up and had more sort of modern day stories mixed with the Bible, But I certainly I went to see a shrink in LA during the first 3.5 months of my recovery. I didn't want to see a shrink, but my wife found somebody and she said, "I really think you need to see this guy," because I was going through with the panic anxiety attacks and just everything that's going on in my life was driving me crazy. And he's the one that told me to get over myself. He said, "You've been living this life as Hercules. You thought you were Superman." And so I almost got that part too. But anyway, he did this drawing of this bubble that I lived in, and he's kind of right. I did live in this bubble. And he had a lightning bolt come in there. And I said, thanks for the lightning bolts out of my eyes. I don't need to see it there too. But he said it cracked your shell and exposed you. And anybody knows about psychology, there's a thing called the shadow. And we all have the shadow. We all have that thing that we throw things in, that we learn from, even from our parents, our grandparents, friends, neighbors, whatever. And the older we get, we carry a bigger bag of crap behind us that we don't want people to see. It's like Billy Joel's A Stranger, We all have different masks we try, and whether it's on other people or not. And he told me it's time for me to let the shadow out. He said it'll help you in your acting. He said this is going to make you a better actor, and I believe it has made me a better actor. Because I'm not as full as crap as I used to be, and thinking that I had to stifle myself and be afraid of what people are going to think. Because now, you know what? Yeah, I don't want to be rude to people, but I'm much more open. I'm much more available to people. I'm not afraid to go on the set and make mistakes. I used to be afraid. I said, I got to get my marks perfect. I got to say every line perfectly. I got rid of that stuff. I know I've grown as an actor and become better because of it. And he taught me one thing. It's called the grateful prayer. It says, I don't care if you believe in God or don't, but everybody should have a grateful prayer. And what he meant by that is, it doesn't matter if you're driving your car, or laying in bed, or watching TV, or wherever you are. You can say, you know what, I'm glad I got a pillow. I'm glad I have hot water. I'm grateful for the pillow. I'm grateful for the blue sky. I'm grateful the sun came over. Because, we're just these little pieces out here. We ultimately, it doesn't really matter all of our worry. Because most of the stuff we worry about in life never happens. It doesn't. We worry about stuff, we stress about things that never ever happen. My first word as a kid was moon, because I used to point it all the time. They kept saying, that's the moon, moon. My parents said that was my first word. I've always had a love with the stars and the skies. That's why I ended up doing Andromeda for 5 years, I had a fascination with it. And when you really take time and look at that, and you look at the universe, and look at how the Milky Way, the vastness of it, is nothing compared to the rest of space. These wars and everything else, we're so stupid, We really need to relax and have a beer or something. We need to be grateful, because we're not in control of any of this stuff. We think we are. We think we control things. You can't control things. What did Lennon say? It says life is what happens when you're making plans, other plans. And there's so much truth to that. There's so much truth to that. And I have gotten so good at, if things change, let's go to the movies, and when the kids get sick, okay, we'll sing them. I don't get crazy with it. It doesn't bug me. Does it?
I'm studying a lot of nutrition and heart disease. This might help you out in the future.
Mm-hmm.
When you're talking about pushing yourself and only sleeping for 4 hours, we're designed for fight or flight. So if you see the line and you have to run away for 10 minutes, your body dumps out a massive amount of adrenaline, also called cortisol, and that's fine. So if you're working out, your body dumps out cortisol, or also cortisol, and that's fine. But we're not designed to be stressed like 4 hours a day or 8 hours a day or 14 hours a day. So if you're have a crummy factory job and your body's dumping out all this cortisol, it's part of the heart, and it also degrades the interior lining of the arteries, and puts the switches and arteries will degrade.
Sure, it's a weakening of the arteries.
Yeah, so I can't say for sure, but it sounds like just pushing yourself constantly over 5 years to start to bring down your arteries. So.
No, I don't. I think that's certainly part of it too. I don't know the answers for it. I didn't have a crummy job. I loved my job. But the reality is, was there stress on me? Yeah, I guess there was stress on me, because I was carrying that show, and I was very proud to be the lead of that show. And I was very grateful for what that show did for me, and did for New Zealand. New Zealand was, they'd never did anything like that before. My entire crew went on to work on Lord of the Rings. I don't think you guys know that, but all of our clothing and creatures were all created by the same guys who did Lord of the Rings, so it was wonderful to be part of that. But I know there was a stress there, because I was every day just calling the writers back in LA and saying, "Kids, this isn't making sense. Why am I doing this?" I was fighting with those guys, but at the same time we laughed at everything we said too. I never not wanted to go to work, and I know that people worked 10 hours, and I was working these ridiculous hours, but I loved it. I kept pushing myself to do it. Thank you.
Audio version of your book, will you read it?
I did read it. I already did it. I don't know when it's coming out. I know it should be soon, but we only did it like 3 or 4 weeks ago, because the movies I was shooting and the schedule I had, we weren't able to do it until, we did in September. It was in September, so we did it. And that's another thing that was weird for me. I know I wrote the book, and it took, really most of this came together over the last year before they published it. And I think I finished it fully by sometime in July, or June or July. And to sit down and read it cover to cover out loud, and I was in a small little room. Everything was, I didn't have any windows. The texts were outside the door, so I couldn't see them. So I was in this room by myself and reading outside. It was a very intimate sort of feeling. I forgot about them. They're a place in there that I laughed, but they're a place I just broke down because it was just reliving some of those things that happened, and also, but and not just the illness, but also talking about the birth of my first child and things like that. Which, if you're a guy and you have any kind of heart and soul at all, I'm sure you had some emotion when your child was born. Your first child was pretty incredible. My second one was 12.5 pounds at birth, so he was like, "What the heck is this?" You know? But anyway, yes. Andromeda was great. I mean, I talk about a little bit in books, mostly Hercules because of the illness, but Andromeda's mentioned here. But well, I'm a big Star Trek fan. So during the last 3 months of shooting on Hercules, there was talk of going another 3 years on the series. My biggest concern was becoming the Gilligan of my show and never working again, basically. And so we started looking around, and I got a call from Major Robin, Jim Rodriguez, and said, my husband wrote the show back in 1969 that John Saxon, if people remember John Saxon, he was in Disappear, I think, with Bruce Lee, or he played the Captain Dylan Hunt that I played in the pilot. At the time, they thought Star Trek was a failure. So they didn't pick up that show. So they said, well, that stupid show only has 25 million viewers, so we're not going to put that on, you know. And so, yeah, she brought it to me, and like I said, I was a huge Star Trek fan. And so to work on a project that he did and get a 5-year run was pretty cool for me. Way back there. I'll get you next. Go ahead.
Will you read part of the book today?
I'll read the opening chapter, sure. I'll do that, yes.
Any of your children or you didn't transfer your back?
Unfortunately, I think my just turned 10-year-old boy probably wants to be an actor, which is a drag for me. He's quite a drama queen. And I think because he's been on the set, you know, we homeschool because I travel so much. Last year I was gone 8 months out of the year, so they get to travel and see. I was in Mykonos 2 months, I was in Malta 2 months, I was in Shreveport, Louisiana 2 months. And I got to tell the Shreveport story real quick. I was shopping at Target, I was getting some groceries and stuff. This guy walks up to his wife and goes, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm shooting a movie." He goes, "In Shreveport?" I said, "Yeah, I am." He goes, "This is the armpit of America." His wife smashed me. He goes, "We live here." He goes, "I don't care. It's the armpit of America." Oh, then I had 2 months in Hawaii too last year, so that didn't, you know, my kids like the North Shore of Hawaii. That's why I shot Soul Surfer, and you get a chance to see that. It's a wonderful movie, so please check that out. So. Anything else? Yes?
Can you describe a typical day in the
I would get up before, and typical before I got that. I'd get up before, and I have high metabolism, obviously, because the workouts I was doing, so yes, I would stretch first, do a good stretch. Then what the day's going to be like, I'll stretch for 20, 30 minutes. Have a little breakfast, leave by about 5, get to location around 6, hair and makeup, rehearsal, and start shooting by 7. You would wrap normally around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then go straight to the gym for 2 hours. I had a trainer, really good trainer, and then go home and have another dinner. I eat like 7 meals during the day. A lot of protein, chicken, steak, eggs, a lot of protein. And then go to the gym, work out, and go home and study my lines and study the next 8 pages the next day. Go to sleep for seemed like 2 seconds. And Captain Dylan Hunt was, for those fans, you know, suspended animation for 300 years. It seemed like 5 seconds. So some of my sleeps was sort of like that. And do it again. And the first 2 years was 6 days a week. They realized that we spun the Xenoc in season 3, and since she married the executive producer, he was going to make her work 6 days a week, so that was beneficial to me. I got knocked out 5 days a week too. But it was, it was a pretty brutal schedule. But you know, like I said, I was in New Zealand. There was nothing to sidetrack me. I was into it. You know, I gave them those times. Like I said, I love the show. I wish they filmed behind the scenes because there was a great. You want a reality show? There's a better reality show than Bookie, Snooki, whatever her name is. Yes.
Did you like the Hawaii 5-0?
Enjoyed Hawaii 5-0. It was fun for me because I got a chance to go back to Hawaii, but I know a couple of guys from the crew as well, and It was good. You know, anytime I go to Hawaii, I look for excuses. What was frustrating for me is when Andromeda finished, I actually shot that series around all the networks again because I wanted that part. I wanted the Jack Lord part. And that was 5 years before they actually did pick it up. So they went much younger with it, with an Australian for crying out loud. I speak with an American accent. Oh, well. Oh, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun. I do have a movie coming up called Julia X, which is quite a departure for me. Somebody else knows about it. It's in LA this weekend at the Scream Fest. It's my first role that I play. It's a psychological thriller. I play a serial killer. It was quite different for me to play this, and it was. But it was that was the movie in Shreveport, by the way. So it was quite a different role. One more question. Are we not? Should I just read this chapter? So you guys want me to read the chapter? Take a question. One quick question, go ahead. Sure I do. Sure I do. Work. Susie? I see what? There's more ways to do that. Where you live? Oh, my arch rival school when I was at Mount High. Now you guys are like the biggest high school around, aren't they? Isn't Edenport like just monsters? From where? All over? All right. Nice meeting you. Now get out of here.
Brett.
That was good old, why we didn't know that. Literally happened overnight. It was weird. Honestly, I didn't need glasses. I was like 45 years still in glasses. I went through loss of vision. And all of a sudden I woke next thing like, wow. It was weird. It wasn't gradual at all. You guys relate to that? It wasn't. I thought it would be like it was just it went from 2020 to whatever. I'll read the introduction. Is that cool? Suddenly I was awake. Don't move. The words seemed to come from inside my head, low and faint. What was that incessant droning sound? I was falling backward, but I wasn't moving. Don't move. I flexed my toes, balled my fists, and counted the tubes in my arms and in my groin, remembering the strict instructions not to reposition myself, no matter what, because I might bleed out. That's right, bleed out. It was coming back quickly now. I had blood veins coursing through my arteries. Something in my arm, no, shoulder, would send several hundred blood clots down my arm. When they reached an artery too small to pass, they stuck there, blocking any fresh blood and suffocating my flesh. My fingers and soles turned blue, cold and tingled. You were attacking back, peppered, the clot-busting blood-thinning wonder drug would set everything straight again. I hoped. My arm throbbed, probably the drug's healing effect. I flexed and pulled the fingers on my left hand again, lifting it a few inches off the bed to get a look at it. My fingers still felt swollen, but at least they didn't look as blue. I turned my hand and it started to tingle. I put it down carefully. I did not want to bleed out. Just like in Ghostbusters, I knew it would be bad. Something was stabbing me between my eyes and pulling behind my head, an excruciating and bright heat. That ceaseless noise wasn't helping at all. I glanced around me as best I could without moving my head too much. Yep, I was still in the ICU with my new friends, questions medical machines, ticking away, hanging over the bed and scrutinizing my every heartbeat. But just as I focused on the IV, the heart monitor next to it disappeared. What? I looked carefully, trying to see the monitor in my periphery. No luck. So I refixed my gaze on the heart monitor directly. Well, there it was. Doing its job, I presumed. Apparently my new blind spot was with me for the long haul. Shit. I closed my eyes and felt worse. Lightning strikes flashed through darkness. How was that even possible? Then the dizziness hit, and every small movement generated a new, awful sensation. I was falling, spinning, freezing, floating. Nausea rolled down my tongue like a ball bearing. That's right. Don't move. Good. bed was a dinghy in rough seas. Oh no, I realized, I'm not supposed to move. Well, how am I going to throw up? That's when it hit me, how hungry I was. How many days had it been? At least 3. I heard the ICU nurses in the hallway talking, joking, laughing. One of them yelled to the other, who must have been walking away, "Yeah, that's what she said." Huh. So nothing original anymore, ever. Don't move. Oh Lord, how I wanted to get up and just walk out of there. My ass was killing me. My back ached, even the skin on it was tender, and my legs were angry for lack of use. I could just feel my muscles slipping off my bones. For the athlete in me, this was torture, but the doctors assured me that this treatment was the only way to save my arm, and even that was still uncertain. Now, what would I do without my left arm? Luckily, right then came another wave of nausea to distract me from my speculations. How can a person feel like puking when there's nothing in there? I flexed my feet to give my legs a small release. Boy, that got me even busier. I was on a tilt-a-whirl. There was nothing amusing about it. I just wanted some peace and quiet to go back to sleep. I wished for the 1000th time that the nurses would shut off that infernal generator. Its relentless humming was driving me crazy. And that's when it finally dawned on me. The sound was coming from inside my head. There was that smoldering wet heat at the base of my skull, and intrinsically I knew that this was the real problem. And all the rest of this, the tube in my groin, the one crossing through my heart to deliver the blood clot-busting medicine directly to my shoulder and arm, the reason I was not permitted to move was simply distraction. It was an effective diversion for now. Look at that tube. I pondered the precious plastic passing innocuously through my heart, even as my heart kept beating, but the impartial tube, the faithful heart, the treacherous shoulder, the angry, throbbing arm, the tingling hand, blue fingers, even my deceitful eyes. None of those sinister concerns could compete with what was happening in my head. The brain was the thing. I understood. Although the end had not yet come, I was teetering on the brink of complete destruction. So I clung clumsily to the distractions of my circumstances in the ICU of this famous hospital. And while I examined this new life, the old one flashed to my memory. Playing football in the snow in our front yard with my neighbors. Driving alone for the first time in a '67 Ford Mustang. Riding the subways in Paris. It all seemed so surreal and fast. Fear is an extraordinary artist, stimulating the mind to reminisce as if to divine where fairy tale meets horror novel. Through it all, I couldn't help but think, what did I do to deserve this?
Thank you so much, Kevin. That was fantastic. The 2 times is available for sale right outside the doors here, and Kevin will be happy to sign books. So please get your book and get in line.
Stop it.
No, let's get some filler.
How long is it? An hour?
53 minutes.